Welcome to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo. The film that I will be covering is Fresh. Fresh is a 2022 horror thriller film. It is directed by Mimi Cave, who directed the film Holland. It is written by Lauren Kahn, who worked on Ibiza. The film stars Daisy Edgar Jones, Sebastian Stan, and Jojo T. Gibbs. Here is the synopsis. The horrors of modern dating are seen through the eyes of a young woman who is battling to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. The film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival virtually on January 20th, 2022. It was released on Hulu and Disney Plus on March 4th, 2022. It has, in terms of critical reception, it has a 3.4 rating on Letterboxd. It was nominated a Satellite Award for Best Motion Picture Made for Television, and it is streaming on Disney Plus. So let's get into first discoveries. I remember seeing the trailer of this before the movie came out. I was intrigued, and then I decided I'll check it out on Disney Plus. And then after watching, I'm like, yeah, I really dig this movie. It was one of my favorite movies that came out during that year. And I decided, you know what, I'll revisit this movie for the podcast, and I really enjoyed. It's still I still enjoy it as the first time I've watched it. I do notice some flaws in this movie, but I would say overall it's quite enjoyable as a horror movie. So let's get into the highlights. Yeah, this movie it explores mostly, I would say, the cons of modern dating. It shows that whether you do online dating through the apps or in person dating, you'll still find the creeps and the jerks out there. I mean, that's what happens with our main character, Noah. Because at the beginning, before her blind date, she's looking through the options on this dating app with no luck. And then she ends up going into that blind date with Chad, which turned out to be a disaster. And but then eventually finds Steve, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about Steve there. But essentially, with Noah, doesn't have any luck in terms of the dating process. It's like she hates the idea of being alone, but doesn't like the dating process essentially. And I think it was during that scene when Noah and her best friend Molly are doing that underground boxing class. Molly essentially tells Noah that, yeah, she doesn't need a man. And based on what happens with this movie, she has a point. Also, too, as a highlight, I enjoyed Sebastian Stan as Steve slash Brendan. Essentially, with his character, when we first see him at the grocery store, he seems to be kind of awkward but charming at the same time too, which impresses Noah. But then, as we spend more time with him and Noah together, we see the layers start to peel off of his character, where we get a sense that the character is off just based on the hints. And yeah, once that's fully revealed that he's quite sinister, it's like, man, that really changes. And I bet there was a lot of layers to the performance, and I would say Sebastian Stan did a good job on that aspect. I do find it interesting that after when Noah is drugged, we see Steve wearing this turtleneck sweater. Seeing that kind of reminds me of the video that Patrick H. Willems made on the importance of sweaters. And I'm sure he'll be proud with a sweater moment in this movie. But anyway, yeah, we see that with Steve is quite the creep in this movie because he doesn't eat meat from animals, but prefers to eat meat from humans, particularly women. As he mentioned in the movie that women taste better. Yuck. And yeah, like he's very happy, too happy, I would say, whenever he's around human meat. There's the moment when he's in the kitchen as he's preparing the meat. He's quite excited. He's dancing in that kitchen, very excited with that. Yuck, 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 yuck. And yeah, and I would say this is a different role that Sebastian Stan has played since, based on what I have seen myself. But yeah, I imagine he had a lot of fun with this role. Also, too, I enjoyed Daisy Edgar Jones as Noah. It was my first role that I've seen her play, and she's gone on to do notable work since. And yeah, she has to experience a range of emotions with her character essentially. And yeah, luckily, like despite the hurdles that the character goes through, at least she pulls off at the end. And I would say, yeah, Daisy Edgar Jones did a great job with this movie. And also to the clues before the opening titles. So at the grocery store, we see Noah. She's standing underneath the sign that said fresh meats. And we see that every time she's with Steve. So I found that was interesting with that shot. And Steve's alcohol choice, when he's at the bar with Noah, it looks like he takes an old fashioned. I mean, I don't drink alcohol myself, but I have seen many episodes of Bar Rescue, and that looks like an old fashioned. And I guess to show that he is an old fashioned guy, as he points out in this movie, his character does not have any social media. Which, I mean, in general, there's nothing wrong with not being on social media, because I'm sure people have their reasons. But in the context of the movie, I guess it's weird because he wants to conceal his identity. And Molly does find out that on Facebook that he is married to Anne and has kids. So yeah, there's that. As I mentioned, yeah, he does not eat animals because when Noah is eating the takeout food, he he's quite dismissive, like in terms of turning the food away and all that stuff. So yeah, just love that the hints were there prior to the opening titles, which I find interesting. And I love also too as a highlight with Molly. I enjoyed Molly in this movie. She's very supportive as a friend, um, and yeah, Molly had the right to be worried about Noah when she decides to take that impromptu last minute trip, which turned out to be a ruse this whole time. But yeah, good for Molly always trying to be there for Noah. And it's too bad that she gets kidnapped too once she sees Anne at their place. But yeah. Also, too, as a highlight, it was nice to see Andrea Bang in a role that's outside of Kim's convenience. So she plays Penny, another victim that was, I guess, kidnapped by Steve at some point. She talks to Noah next door. They don't see each other until Noah is able to break free and rescues everybody. But I thought she did a good job in this movie with Andrea Bang. So it was nice to see her in something outside of Kim's Convenience. So there's that. And if you have not seen Kim's Convenience, I recommend you guys check that out. I know in Canada it's on CBC Gem. I'm not sure outside of Canada, but yeah, it's worthwhile with that show. Also, too, Chad. So Michael, so Brad Deer, aka Michael from Jane the Virgin, plays the character. His character is essentially an asshole in this movie. He takes Noah's takeovers without asking her. Always acts rude. At one point, he doesn't even hold the door for her. Weird. And his scarf hangs over, touches the food at one point. Gross. And makes the date more about himself as opposed to getting to know Noah. So yeah, no surprise that she did not like that date. And it was hilarious that he decided to text her towards the end of the movie. Hilarious, hilarious. Also too, it's funny that with Paul, which I believe is Molly's ex-boyfriend, the bartender, he he has a moment when so he's concerned that Molly, I guess, has not reached out to him after she tells him about Steve, and then he decides to go to Molly's last location, and then hears some stuff happening in the background. And he decides, you know what, I'm out of here. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, it's kind of disappointing that he doesn't rescue them, but it was quite hilarious with that moment. And then also too, as a final note, I enjoyed the fight scene between Steve, who's revealed to be Brandon, and the girls. I love how it's not like a perfect fight scene because everyone is injured. Because with Brandon, his package, it gets almost gets bitten off by Noah, and he's like in pain this whole time. And of course, with the other girls, because of their missing limbs, essentially. So I love how like it's quite raw with that scene in terms of not being heavily choreographed. Because usually with fight scenes, even though they're choreographed, you could tell that they're staged essentially as opposed to being natural. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the fight scene. And yeah, and Steve does not make it at the end. No surprise there. So there's that. All right, in terms of lowlights, there was a lot of close-ups in the movie, which I don't mind, but I feel like it was a bit too much of it. I think with the close-ups at times is meant for people to be grossed up at certain points, especially when it comes to the clients eating the meat. Essentially, it kind of reminded me of the movie The Substance with Demi Moore, because that had a lot of close-ups as well too, and at times it shows how the grotesque stuff of that movie. Um, but yeah, I think it could have been a bit pared down with the close-ups, but otherwise I don't mind it too much. But I just feel like it was too much of it. I think as a note, the pacing could have been a bit tighter, especially when we get towards the middle portion of the movie. Also, too, I wondered what kind of doctor Steve was. I mean, since he's doing a lot of surgery, it's safe to assume that he's a surgeon. I thought maybe at first plastic surgeon, but it seems like it was just like a regular surgeon. And I wonder though, with Steve though, like, is he doing all this for money or just for pleasure? It seems like it's both in this case, but I feel like I would lean towards pleasure because he told Noah at one point how when he first tried human meat, he got very excited and he couldn't escape the feeling of eating it, which is why he kept doing it essentially. But then it seemed like he also wanted money because I see it looked like he has two houses. I thought at first it was one house, but it's two houses. And you wonder, like, for a doctor, like, how can he afford that lifestyle? Probably because of this illegal stuff that he's doing. But yeah, I just wondered that aspect of his character. Also, too, with Anne. So Steve has a wife named Anne. I just wondered what was her involvement with the crimes, because I wondered with her, was it by choice that she decided to partner up with Steve on, or was she forced into it? Now, some would say forced because she has a missing limb. Maybe she was patient zero, where he, I don't know, experimented on her. But but yeah, she seemed to go along with this whole scheme, and it tried to attack Noah until Molly intervened. So I mean, there's that. So yeah, and also I wondered, since Steve decided to take Noah's ass, how does it work not to have an ass? Because she was able to sit, even though like she was in pain at some point. She was able to sit because you figured that without a butt, you would have to sit a certain way, but or maybe have extra cushions. But I just wondered. That was a thought. Let's get into trivia. So, not a lot of facts I could find for this movie. So, apparently, the screenwriter Lauren Kahn, she's a fan of the horror genre growing up, and she wanted to write a film that would appeal to people who were horror fans and people who were not. Yeah, I could see that with this movie. I could see that for sure. And to play the antagonist, Sebastian sent the director Mimi Cave an audition video of himself dancing with a knife in hand. He added, quote, "The dance sequences were a big concern for Cave, and just in case she had any doubts that I could do it, I recorded myself in this video." Cool. And then lastly, the premiere of the movie, which happened in person, was held on March 3rd, 2022, inside the Hollywood Legion Post 43 on Highland Avenue. Instead of an after party, the premiere had a pre screening reception due to the film's subject matter. Gina Wade created a display for the reception featuring a large table of food on it, cleavers hanging on the wall, glass jars filled with raw meat, and boxes of snacks shaped like body parts. Interesting. All right. Should this movie be rediscovered? I would say absolutely yes, because I would say, at least for me as a horror movie, it works. You could say it's a thriller movie, both horror and the thriller movie, and yeah, with it explores, I would say, the negative aspects of dating. So there's that. All right, so that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So you can find me on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Linktree at Numphy Malloy. You can find the podcast on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. Visit buymeacoffee.com/RD Movies Pod to support the podcast via donation and view exclusive posts there. Join the Rediscovered Movies Hub, which is a community group on our official Wix website, which is rdmoviespod.wixsite.com/official, where you can interact with others, share thoughts on the podcast, and more. On Spotify, you can answer the feature poll, leave a comment, and rate the podcast. You can leave a review and rate the podcast on Apple Pods, Good Pods, and Podchaser. And submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you can fill out the contact form on our link tree to be featured on a Q&A episode, which will air after the end of this season. All right, so that pretty much sums up this episode of the podcast, and hope to catch you on the next one.